Hey everyone, how's it going? It is I, the real Randy Chavez, coming with coming at you with my good friend Autumn, who
Hi,
the
y'all.
gamer the name says say amen for sin. For a second I thought that was a Dragon Ball Z reference saying like say a man for sin. Like it's a Dragon Ball Z thing. But so tell me about the gamer tag and why you chose to put in say amen for sin instead of
Okay,
adulthood.
I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and it was not the greatest experience ever. But they are very, they're like Trinitarian, they're non-Trinitarian, they're Christian, all that jazz. But like at like the end of every like prayer or anything, they say Amen. It's a collective. And because I always felt like I was walking on eggshells around them and that I was being a totally awful sinner, like sinning sinner just by existing, even though I wasn't necessarily like doing anything bad growing up, that I was just like, you know what, say I'm in for sin. And so far it's checked out on like pretty much every, oh, hi, Jen, on every like streaming service that I've like tried to be on or whatever, like gaming platform, I mean. So
Okay, so that was
not
I
really.
understand the irony and the funny comes of the say amen for sin. So when you said you grew up like that, is that like your earliest memory from when you're like 3 years old? You're going to like a church or you're going to knock on people's doors?
Oh yeah, for sure. I was born on a Sunday, and by the following Sunday, I was being introduced to the congregation. So
Oh
it
my.
was definitely something that my family, bless their hearts, in the mostly good way, were very like devout about, and some still are. So
And that was so without doxing you too much, the place it was in the Bible Belt. So you can be more specific if you want. And it was what time period was this for people that might not know?
so I was born in '99. I'm 23, and I was physically in, mentally out by the time that I was 8 years old. Like I just knew that it was straight up not for me. But of course, I had to like toe the line. And then by the time I was, what would you say, like 16, 17 ish, when like my family like really like brought down the hammer on like what I was supposed to do, like all that
Oh, I
jazz.
think it
And
was
then by
before
17, I
that.
was getting essentially not legally emancipated, but definitely kicked out.
We do they have any mantras? We have Daniel Marquez saying that his mom's last words were "It's true, Jehovah, Jehovah" over and over, cancer. What
I'm
do
so
they have
sorry.
any mantras in your family? Was it specific to him, or is there anything that all people say?
They definitely call like their higher power Jehovah. They believe that his name is Jehovah, he who rules over most high over all the earth, I think is like the direct quote. But I know that like growing up, like if my grandparents suspected like demonic activity, they would be like Jehovah, 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 because the demons shudder at the name Jehovah, or um they would always say like make the truth your own for it's the best way of living, and they believe that their religion is the truth and everything else is false. And there's just like a lot of different things. Honestly, I've tried to block most of it out.
So that's
Therapy.
that's
But
their
yeah,
version of saying like the power of Christ compels you. They
kind of, yeah.
so they
And
don't. What's their religious text?
they use the Bible. They also use different publications produced by the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, also known as, you know, that like Brooklyn Bethel building in New York City that like left a few years ago. That was them.
Did
So
we see that when you came to New York City?
I think we did, and I was like, ew, next.
Uh, we are there any like horror like in or I guess in general you have like The Exorcist and you have a lot of like Christian, demonic movies. Are there any like cult classics in Jehovah like, oh, this was made about Jehovah's Witnesses that maybe we might not know? And it doesn't have to be scary. I just love horror, but
um, I know that there's been like a couple independent films. I can't recall like any to mind. I know that Leah Remini, or I think that's how her last name is pronounced, the Scientology, like the ex-Scientologist.
yeah.
She did a broadcast on I think the Oxygen channel at one point, that kind of like went into like different members' backstories and whatnot, but I don't really know for sure. Like, yes, Jehovah's Witnesses like do make a lot of like their own like books, movies, music, etc. But I don't know like anything specific off the top of my head.
Aaliyah Romani was on TikTok not too long ago talking about her oxygen special or wherever it was on, and she had like a lot of people there. It was so I thought it was a lot of people. It was like 5,000 people there, just listening to her talk. But then I saw these two. I don't want to say kids. They were probably around my age, maybe like late 20s, early 30s, and they had like 12,000 people there. But they had those, those arm things that people wear for like the Yu-Gi-Oh battle stuff, and they're like, I'm gonna put in, my monster card face down. Oh, you've activated my trap card, and I was like, what is this? It was awesome.
I don't
Um,
know, but more power to them.
it was fun. So how I know you said you were like kind of mentally checked out by the time you were like 8 years old. How did it change from the time when you were younger until the time when you were like a mid to late teenager when you were actually like out?
So I think like a lot of it like had to do with like even though I don't like particularly get along with my birth mom and like we don't speak, she definitely like had some like differing opinions to a lot of things, and a lot of people were just like very hateful to her like about her choices. And I was like, it really doesn't matter to me like what people's choice like there's just a general like moral code, sometimes morally gray code, right? But
Mhm.
like you're not going to just automatically be like crappy to someone just because they're struggling with their mental health and they're not attending like services regularly or whatever. And then because she burned a lot of bridges, I kind of got the secondhand dose just because I was her daughter, because everyone was expecting me to be like her. And like you've known me for what, going on 10 years now, and
Probably something like that. Yeah.
it's been a hot minute. That like, yes, I have like my mental health issues, and a lot of that is trauma based, but I'm not just burning bridges everywhere I go. Um, and so, because I experienced a lot of that backlash, and also I got accused of like various things that I just didn't do, it really kind of placed like animosity, like to protect myself, like against a lot of like the people there. And like there are a lot of good people, but a lot of like the congregations that I knew in like that I was in like knew of like my family struggles, and I was still like ostracized a lot growing up, which that I'm like super bubbly, so that was like super super like painful for me as a kid, because they were like, oh, like you can't be friends with her, like her mom did this and this. And so like as I was like during those like really formative years of like whether you or not you basically like stick with a religion or not based on how you grew up, there were just a lot of like walls, as
Yeah.
well as like some like fundamental teaching stuff that I just didn't agree with. And I was like, you know what? I'm good. I'm going to try to not get disowned. Joke's on me. But
I
I'm just
feel
going to
like a
like
lot
toe the
of
line and try not to disappoint my family. And then I just made my own way. So,
the point you made about getting blamed for stuff that you didn't do. There's definitely a lot of kids out there that feel like that. I know my parents did that. I feel like a lot of times when sometimes parents either live those lives themselves or have had friends that did that, they're like, oh, they just assume the worst in kids because that's what they do. Have you stumbled on the Reddit page, Asian Parents or Kids of Asian Parents? I think it's called Asian Parent Stories.
briefly, I do prefer Am I the Asshole though? um,
They're both really good. I like them both.
I have like a really good example of the whole getting blamed for something that I didn't do though.
Oh yeah, go tell it.
So when I was in sixth grade, I lived like around the block from a Jehovah's Witness neighbor, and she had 3 kids at this time. I think thank you. Best of, they don't say best of luck. So best of luck to you for like your healing and your like recovery from all of like cognitive dissonance, Stan. So yes. So I went and helped this sister. They call each other brother and sister, like because we're children of God,
Mhm.
or they are. Um, with a yard sale, and I was there like every day for like a week straight, at like 4 in the morning, and then like working until like 6:30, going to school for breakfast. all day at school, doing my homework, coming back, helping her like close up like late at night, helping her cook dinner for her kids, and then like going home because my grandparents, you know, needed breaks and I needed to get out of the house for various reasons. And so she was doing that to save up money to go to her sister's wedding back on the East Coast. She had apparently lost like $350 and was convinced that I took it. And she had my grandma go through my room. She also, and it was also like around the time that I was already getting ostracized by like a lot of my like aged peers.
Yeah.
And so with that, I didn't find out until I was a freshman that she had like had my grandma go through like my room and stuff, because at that point CPS was coming through and my room was randomly getting spot cleaned.
Oh, damn.
Like home checks are scary.
Yeah.
So like I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, grandma cleaned my room. Thanks, grandma. It wasn't really that messy, but and come to find out, by the time that I was almost in my sophomore year of high school, after we had like moved out of that state, she called my grandmother and was like, hey, I found that $350. Turns out I gave it back to so-and-so and it was in a luggage compartment. And by that point, like the damage was already done. And I don't think that like I'm ever going to reach back out to her or like whatever, because it's just let like sleeping dogs lie. But I was just genuinely unimpressed with that. And that just kind of furthermore sealed the deal.
I feel you on that. When you said CPS was coming around, the CPS, do they tend to look at families like Jehovah's Witnesses with a little bit of like suspect and prejudice? And
Yeah.
how often were they coming to your house?
So this was like a raging custody battle between my grandparents who had guardianship and my mom who had like technically signed away her like parental rights. And I know that the judge for one was like very like angry that like my grandparents tried to get guardianship of like my brother and I, and he was like, Jehovah's Witnesses are awful. They're just gonna like screw up those kids. And he said that on record. Like I'm not gonna go find the file, but I was there and I was like kind of shook because at that point I was just trying to get away from my mom because she was off her rocker. And Jehovah's Witnesses definitely have a persecution complex. Like, yes, there's a ton of like crappy things that happen to many people like across the world and truly awful, horrendous things. But in their like teachings and doctrine, they basically say that like you will be persecuted just as I was, like referring from Jesus. And with that, like it definitely like didn't make my family's opinion of like what happened any better. Like to this day, my family still refers back to that courtroom day.
Damn.
Yeah, like they don't get over things easily. And CPS, my mom was calling random home checks on us like every other day just because she was angry. And like my grandparents like kept a very tidy home. Like I did my best not to like make it a huge mess because like they were aging and I helped clean and like there wasn't anything inappropriate going on. And like I was always like well taken care of and well fed and everything. And I'm very thankful for the fact that like they helped me, even though it came with terms and conditions, which conditional love is a very Jehovah's Witness thing, as in most hardcore religions. So
Yeah. So when you mentioned that they tend to shun certain things and shout Jehovah. Daniel Marquez saying that he went in through a little bit of a rumspringer. They not only very bad tattoos, but stuff I did in my mid-20s. It would have killed them. Talking about his family. Can you go over some of the stuff?
feel you, Daniel. My friends are shocked. Like when I say, oh yeah, I used to be a Jehovah's Witness. And they're like, excuse me, you what? And I'm like, listen, I don't have any tattoos, but I got a ton of piercings. Yeah. I swear like a sailor and I celebrate holidays.
So what are some things that you found ridiculous that, let's say like things like, I know some religious people really don't like Harry Potter because it's magic, and they don't like Pokemon because of evolution. So some things you think are a bit ridiculous, and then some things that maybe you actually were a little bit rebellious about that you did that maybe would have put a shock on their faces. I want to hear both.
So of course, like Jehovah's Witnesses are very mindful of their associations and what they view in forms of entertainment and whatnot. Harry Potter was definitely banned. I think I watched that on a torrent site in high school. I probably could have just been like, hey, you want to send me the Harry Potter movies, and you would have done it, but there would have been no way that I could have snuck that easily.
Yeah, I would have had to, like, they like South Korea sometimes they'll actually airdrop, and I don't mean like via Dropbox. Like they'll send planes over North Korea and airdrop portable DVD players with South Korean like dramas on it and stuff so that North Koreans can watch them.
Good.
And yeah, I definitely would
We
have done
love
something
rebel
like that.
causes. So yes, I remember being like 5 and 6 years old, and my grandma, she was like, Autumn, do you play Pokemon? And I was like, I mean, my friends at school do, but I don't really know anything about it. She's like, don't, it means little demons. And I was like, okay, grandma, like it's cute little animated creatures, but if you say so, I will oblige. So like I didn't really get into it until Pokemon Go came out, and even then I'm still vaguely unfamiliar.
Yeah.
Like I've learned a lot from you because you
Mhm.
are my own personal source of all things nerdy from
The
stuff I was like,
Pokemon
typically
Master.
banned from. Speaking of, your Iron Maven tattoos are sick.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
For those of you that don't know, Iron Maven is a tattoo artist friend of mine. I met her like 13 years ago, back in 2010. Who tattoo artist, awesome chick, cat mom, is OnlyFans star now. She does quite
Get
well
it,
with that.
girl.
Yeah, she's
I'm not that brave.
dude, I love her. She's amazing. But yeah, her wicked tattoos, face tattoos, they're great. Uh, oh yeah. So all right. So sorry. Keep going with the story.
So Harry Potter, Pokemon, the Spiderwick Chronicles. At one point, my mom was trying to come back to the religion, and she got rid of all of my VHS Disney movies when I was in first grade,
Why
which
Disney?
sucked because had I kept on to those and like I took good care of things because I didn't have a lot of things when I was younger, I would have had like I could have sold those and had
Yeah.
money. But no. Um, and just all sorts of like music. Like one time I made a reference to a Judas Priest song, and I don't remember what the reference was now, but I got into a lot of trouble.
The
So I definitely like would have gotten in trouble for like creative writing and like not all creative writing, but like some like fandom creative writing that I used to do. And like kind of like in the community like where we met, had they known about that, I would have gotten skinned alive.
damn.
Definitely having friends online would have gotten me skinned alive. I had multiple fake Facebook accounts
Had like
growing up
14.
because I was so like shunned and ostracized, and my online presence was so scrutinized that I was like, you know what? Fine. I'm just going to never write down these passcodes and clear any like things I can do.
We had some amazing conversations so for people that don't know, in the anime manga community, sometimes people like when they have in Harry Potter they have this or something like we are book 8 after the series ends, they go on, still continue to talk about it. If there's a series where there's only a certain amount of things that had happened, it's only a certain amount of time in a book, people will go on and role play as those characters if they're real. You were really good at it as Shigure, and our friend Everton was really good at it
Oh, I
as
love
a
Everton.
yeah. I'm trying to get him on the podcast. I've been trying for like years to get him on the podcast.
Meanwhile, I'm like, sure, I'll do it the next day. It's fine.
Yeah, he's got such an interesting story too because of the way he'd grown up and the way his life changed very very drastically, and him being part of a certain community and also being Republican on top of that is like, whoa, this is so strange how that.
Yeah, I am very confused by that, but more power to him.
So when you had what do you think your best character was that you loved the most, that you got the most out of when you did the
Karu.
role? Which one?
Kaoru.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The So was that part of your favorite anime? And tell everyone which anime that's from.
It was from Oran High School Host Club, which is mildly embarrassing now, but I still love it. I was homeschooled during most of the time when I was very heavily into that. So it was like a lot of like the role play, like creative writing stuff was A, my main form of entertainment, and B, where I found a lot of like my friends, and I'm still friends with a ton of them today. It's like kind of hard to believe. Like I started dating my first girlfriend, which would have been hella taboo. And I would have definitely got filleted alive for that, publicly and privately, had they ever found out. Well, they kind of did. She got mad at me one day and actually called my family and like said something, and I was like, no, like she's off her rocker. She's mad at me. Ha ha ha. And I
Okay,
think
yeah.
they were a little sus after that, but it was kind of like a don't ask, don't tell kind of thing.
Did they ever know? I know you said they were sus, but did they ever find out?
They did around the time that after I had moved out, because at that point, like I didn't really see a point in kind of keeping it hidden. It was more so I didn't want to disappoint my family, and I knew that that's something that like their religious views definitely made them dislike a lot of people for those reasons.
No.
And my family were never like Westboro Baptist Church like hateful, but like if my grandparents and I saw like a gay couple or a lesbian couple like walking down the street, like after they passed, my grandma would go, ew, gross. And I was like, they're just people. Who gives a shit? I was like,
So
okay, so what if I were to say that like your 50 some odd years of marriage were completely awful?
yeah.
Stupid. I love my grandparents and I miss them dearly, but I definitely healed a lot after I moved out from, and I was never like homophobic or super judgmental or anything to anybody, but it was definitely nice to just be able to like love my friends openly for whoever they are and whatever they do. Granted, like you're not gonna support pedophilia or anything like that. Fuck that noise. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
But it was a definite breath of fresh air.
So in obviously that is I guess considered a sin to Jehovah's Witnesses, but that's and let's say you have a conservative LGBTQ couple that they would be against even though they are conservative about things. How do how would your family or Jehovah's Witness in general view someone that is straight but very open with their sexuality? And how would that differ between a guy and a girl? Like a guy kind of known for going out on a lot of dates versus a girl showing like a little cleavage, et cetera, that type of deal.
So Jehovah's Witnesses believe in not dating until you're ready to get married, um, which is another reason why I would have been skinned alive. Because not only that is they do a lot of chaperone dates so that nothing sinful can happen.
Oh my God.
Middle school, like leave room for Jesus dances with another person just watching your every move.
Oh my God.
Thankfully, I never went on those. At one point, there was like talk of like an arranged marriage between like one of my childhood like best friends and I, and like his family was on board until like my mother went off the rails, which saved
Oh,
me.
gotcha. Yeah.
Thanks, mom. But otherwise,
Jeez.
I know that like for the modesty standards, like this would technically, yeah, no sex until marriage. Like this would almost borderline be too low cut. Um, and of course, like no skirts above your knees,
Okay.
and like making sure that like not completely shoulders are covered, but like not showing like bra straps or anything like that. Guys can pretty much get away with anything. Go figure. I mean, typically in the US and some parts of the world, like they do allow beards, but in the US they don't. Tattoos aren't really acceptable. Like they're not going to make you go like get rid of your tattoos, but they're kind of frowned upon, and you're kind of
Yeah.
expected to keep them covered if you're like at the Kingdom Hall or out in service or whatever.
Yeah.
As for various other things, I know that like no midriffs for like women. I was allowed to have one lobe set growing up, which is why you always saw me like have like fake septums in or like fake industrials or fake clickers or whatever, because I knew that it's was something that like I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
And even though I'm too indecisive still about tattoos, like that doesn't mean that I don't want them someday.
I'll
Maybe
we'll take
Stacey
you
can
one
hook
day.
me up.
Yeah, next. Well, I was gonna say next time you're in New York, but I was in Kuwait and I planned to come back and get a whole bunch of tattoos, and then girl moved to Florida when I was in there. I was like, oh man. So eventually I did go to Florida and I got my Donkey Kong tattoo by her.
I I remember that. I remember you were real salty for a little bit.
I was. It was very
Oh my
salty.
gosh. We should tell the story about how we were on Skype. That dates us real good.
Oh
About
wait, wait.
how he turned on the light.
So it was in Kuwait. It was 2016, and my me and you're still at your grandparents, right? Yeah, you're still there. And we had you were just in the dark because reasons, or I was in the dark, and
No, we were
my,
both in the dark.
yeah,
It was like 2 a.m. my time, and I was like sneaking on a call because obviously I have no friends at church and all my friends are elsewhere except for at school, but I can't hang out with my school friends either outside of school.
oh, horrible. So my friend Kelly comes into dispatch and he turns the light like, "Hey, Chavez," and
I
from
hissed.
from not even from here, it was just on the screen. You saw it get light in my room, and you hissed.
It
You make
was
this.
so bright. Like, it was like,
You're like you. It was hysterical. That was the. I wish Skype could like record those.
oh,
It was
right.
years
I
ago.
would have loved to like go back and look at our previous conversations. Like, it's going to be so fun to look back through this in a few years.
And this thankfully is recorded. It's going to be on the YouTube. That was a year before we actually met in real life.
So that was 2017. So yeah, I was still at home.
Yeah. So we met in 2017, right? Or was it
I think it
2018?
was 2016.
No, 2016. I was in Kuwait.
Yeah, you were in Kuwait, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
So,
But we
and then
met, I
I
think.
got kicked out like 2 months before I turned 18. So yeah, it was more than likely 2016. And then we met April 4th of
Was
2018.
it 17 or 2018?
I think it was 2018 because I didn't get my apartment until June of
Okay,
2017.
gotcha. Yeah, we had. I remember that flight where it was. What airport did I fly into?
XNA.
Which I've never been to since, or I guess, yeah, never been to since, never heard of before. I think it was a decent aircraft. I think it was slightly smaller, but the absolute
Worst
turbulence
one.
on it. I drank like 5 of those airplane alcohol bottles because
Regrets.
I didn't want to die sober. I thought we were going down. I was like, okay, this is it. This is like my post-military alcoholic era. Still kind of in, but not really. I've been clean for a while. Um,
You're doing a lot better than you used to be. For a while, I was like, listen, broski, I love you. Please don't die. Liver failure.
yeah, that was bad times in 2018. So we go and we have you take me to McDonald's, and
Yes.
I never thought to ask McDonald's for a whole container's worth of Big Mac dipping sauce. So
You guys shame me like this, huh? I knew this was coming. I literally knew this was coming.
I didn't know this was coming. It just
Also,
popped into
pizza
my
nails.
head.
Look how pretty they are.
So I take the fries. I was like, oh my God. I never knew like you could do this. Like I didn't know that this was a thing that you could ask for. And then I wound up getting sick that night between the alcohol and the Big Mac sauce. That was
It was not a pretty time, and I'm over here with my fear of throwing up and my sympathetic, you know, and I'm just like in my living room, like, no, I'm gonna leave my apartment. He can live here now. I'm
those
sorry
are
you feel sick. I'm gonna be way over here.
those are good nights. Those were a long time ago. If I can, I'll try to find some pictures and show them later.
At one
Especially,
point, you tried on a blonde wig of mine, and you looked like He-Man,
yeah, I wanted to be Thor.
but you
So
looked like He-Man.
and you didn't have a big Thor hammer. You just had a
Claw
little
hammer.
normal regular hammer. Um, and then you
At
had
least
tried.
I had tools at 18. Like, don't shame me that hard.
We send some wicked gross pics to each other. Like there's one with a foot with worms coming out of it, and there's a screw in someone's head. Like this is, I'm going through it. Oh my, you
Listen,
remember
we're deranged, and it's okay.
the
I
Disney,
think I found that one.
the
Thank God.
unfortunate Disney. The placement. I can't believe I gave you my
Randy,
credit card over
stop sharing all of the terrible memes
there.
posted
Okay.
on Reddit on an Anon account.
All right. I'm on 2019 here. Okay, we're going back. Oh, someone put rings on their fingers. Oh, that's disgusting. Anyway, you tried on my Deadpool mask. You had I don't know if I have that picture. Oh, maybe we didn't send them to each other. Maybe we just took them because I think I'm past the point where we
Yeah,
were.
and I also don't have that phone anymore because one of my exes broke it, so I don't even have a way to retrieve those.
Oh, those mother flappers.
I know,
What were
right?
you sending me pics of? Is there who had a
Cursed
profile of a
memes,
pig?
dude.
Huh?
Always. Cursed memes, always. Like, it's not
Yeah.
even.
Oh, I don't know. You ever look at your there's a you ever watch Schitt's Creek
Yes. I love Schitt's Creek.
where Moira is talking to Stevie and she says like you might think that right now, oh, nobody wants to see me naked. My boobies are too tiny and I'm too ghostly looking. But one day you'll look upon yourself with much kinder eyes and think, oh, I was a beautiful thing. I look at myself from years ago and think like, oh God, I used to be good. I don't know. Do you ever get that feel? Do you ever get that?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you're still really young though. Like you said you're 23, 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, your birthday soon.
I know. It's going to be in like a month and a half.
Yeah, that's fun. What are we doing this year for your birthday? Do anything?
I don't know. I'm maybe going down to San Antonio later in the month, but not like for my birthday. Same.
Well, just
It's your sleep paralysis monster, Randy.
yeah, horrible sleep paralysis monster. I don't know why you do this to me.
Because I
Oh,
can.
okay. Here it is
You're making me
me in a
22-inch real human hair blonde wig that was set on fire by one of my exes.
yeah.
Great
This was your that was your wig because you had a shaved head when we met. Tell us about that. Why did you go all Britney Spears in 2007?
Well, you mean like the first shaved head experience?
I actually have a picture of it. Can I
Oh no
show?
no 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 no!
Okay,
It's
never
fine.
mind. Never mind.
No 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 no. I look better with hair. So I had dyed my hair like
Blue?
basically that color blue but shiny,
Oh, I have a
and
picture of that as well.
we're good.
Okay.
And I really liked it. And then I got a job where like I could not have a naturally colored hair. And I was not about to pay a bunch of money to get it like bleached black, like bleached back. And so I was like, you know what? It's fine. And I shaved it. And then it was fine. Oh, thank you. I do my best. I just want to try some. Yeah, exactly. And so with that, I'd always wanted to do it. And with Jehovah's Witness, like standards of like femininity, long hair was always the expected.
No,
And it was a very freeing moment. Like, I don't want to say it was like completely mental breakdown.
not full Britney Spears.
It wasn't full Britney Spears. It was partially like I was like heavily going through some like cognitive dissonance, like division there, but it was fun and I would do it again. But I think my new goal is to just have hair down to my ass. And I'm really tall, so that's gonna be a problem.
I
Yeah, stop flexing on me. I got like
oh
this
yeah, I'm on longer than yours. Oh, do
for
you feel
once.
inferior now? Um, so tell us around the time of and we're getting closer to your adult age now, where you were not legally emancipated, but you were in the process of that though, right?
Yeah, I was trying to get legally emancipated, but basically I had a consultation with a family lawyer that was not a part of like my family's court dealings just because I wanted like an unbiased opinion.
Yeah,
And I know they professionally try to do that anyway, but I just wanted like extra safety measures. And I was like, okay, so like here's the sitch, here's the background. I love my family, but I am so mentally drained and not doing hot in any sense of the word. Like I could strongly considered like checking myself into 72-hour holds multiple times. And I know that like you and I talked about that multiple times when I was younger.
yeah.
I was like, how much is this going to be? What do I need to expect? What do I need to prepare for, etc. And basically I got told that like since my grandparents only had guardianship and my birth mom and my adoptive dad were still technically in the picture, I could just get sent to live with one of them. And I was like, no, mm-mm, mm-mm. That's almost as bad. Like like the Jehovah's Witness thing, like I can fake it till I make it as much as I like. I will do my best, but I do love like the other side of the family. But
So he's referring to a time last year where someone had paid me, I think, $1,100 to shave my beard, cut my hair, and
oh, that's
also
when you started looking like Rufus from Kim Possible.
yeah, it was separate from like the $300 people paid for me to shave my eyebrows. That was interesting. But I'm sorry, keep going. Keep
What was I talking about?
going.
Adderall has not kicked in today.
It was it was the your story about kind of getting emancipated, kind of just moving out, kind of.
Sorry.
Oh,
Thought that
it was
was
over.
inside.
In the time that was, so you were like 16, 17?
Right. So I had, gone through like all the hoops to try to like figure out what I could do, like what to prepare for. At that point, I had already graduated school, like high school at 16, right before my 17th birthday, which is wild that that's so long ago. And I was already in college, but I wanted to, make sure that all the I's were dotted, all the T's were crossed, etc., because I was so used to the court system in general, but I didn't want to go back into that. And because I was familiar with like being a ward of the state and stuff, I was just like, I'm not going to make this any more complicated than it already is.
Yeah.
And turns out I, got kicked out early anyway. So they did that hard part for me.
So when it was talked about the arranged marriage between you and one of your childhood best friends, how old were you when that was going on, and how old were you when their family decided no?
So we were like 5, maybe. And then I think
Didn't know if
they,
you want to be Doc Skinny Pete. Sorry, keep going.
um, I think we were like 5 and 5 and 6. And I think we were like 8 and 9 when it was like no longer being like joked about.
Oh
Because,
wow.
they can't, it's not like they were like actually going to like sign into contract, pay a dowry and all that jazz. Our families were just like really close. And I'm not really sure if it was like, oh, you guys are so cute. You guys should get married when you grow up. Or it was like an actual thing because like how my grandparents later talked to me about it, it sounded like it was going to be like a potentially actual thing. And I was like, that's sketchy as hell. And then
Whoa.
my family moved back into the same congregation as his family when we were I was a junior in high school and he was a senior.
Mhm.
And by that point, I was just like, ew, no. Of course, I was like dating my now ex-fiance like on the down low at that point, and it was a whole complicated thing, but I'm very thankful that it didn't actually end up, because he is he's a very devout Jehovah's Witness, and I wish the best for him, but I could not live that life.
Yeah. How would it?
Barely live it without like having someone other than like my immediate family have control over my life.
Yeah, I'd never want to be in that position to have someone have authority over me like ever again. That was, I mean, I obviously hated it when I was younger, but then in the military it wasn't as
And then you
bad
don't want
because
that Full Metal Alchemist dog of the military lifestyle anymore. That's weird, man.
it's so strange. When you're like, well, not even when you're like stationed stateside, when you're like overseas and you're just like, okay, I want to go back. I want a beer and I want to like sit in a recline chair and just relax on like a Sunday. But then once you're back here, and I've this feeling has not gone away in the 6 years since I've been back, that I want to go back. Like I want to go continue into the desert, into the suck, into it. I don't know. I have a theory why. There's
Is it the routine and like knowing what's expected because every day is chaos?
I mean it's so I was asked this question a few years ago, or
I hate
someone
what
was
my
asking
hair is
me,
doing
"Hey,
right there.
huh?"
There we go.
Oh, it was someone asked the question. There was like, who were like your better friends? Was it your friends not in the military, your friends in the military? And it was more like, I don't know, it's just different. Like, what are your, I don't know, like, what are your, do you like root beer better or chocolate milk better? It's like, well, I like them both, but sometimes on different occasions, it's just different. Like, you can't really compare, one to the other.
No, I
Um,
feel that. I miss my religious friends a lot, but like obviously I don't really talk to them anymore. And like I miss my friends from school and I miss my friends from college and I miss my online friends when we don't talk as much as we used to before. But it's not like there's any real it's not like I can just be like, these are my favorites. I'm like, it depends on like what we're going to talk about or what like common ground we have or what shared experiences we're going to talk about or whatever. Like, it's not like I'm going to go decide that it's snowing outside and think that the best clothes is a bikini. Like, I'm going to like go hang out with like, I'm going to go like into like the situation with like the proper like measures to hang out with certain people.
I Going back to the arranged marriage thing, I understand where people come from, that where they support the arranged marriage, people saying, well, they're your family, they're probably going to want the best for you, and this is the best way they know how. They're not going to set you up, most likely they're not going to set you up with someone that's horrendously horrible. But I feel like that's mostly in the first world. I feel like in a lot of places in third world countries where people are setting up like 30-year-olds to be with like 9-year-olds. And I so I'm against.
It's scary. Like,
Yeah,
it's still to this day, the fact that like that kind of stuff happens like absolutely floors me. And maybe I'm just a little bit too feministy for this, but I feel so bad for those like for like the people in like those situations because like they don't even know like what they're missing out on when they're stuck in an arrangement like that.
yeah. So how have your feelings about love evolved since when you're a kid? Like when you're a kid, I feel like everyone like watches like a Disney movie and they kind of think they know what like love is. But the when you were younger enough to form your old opinion or your own opinion until now, how had it changed? And did it change as much because you got out of the Jehovah lifestyle, or was it just because of growing up in general? Puppy.
It wasn't so much like it's complicated because sorry, the huskies are trying to barge through the door.
Puppies.
Gremlins. I definitely knew that like I didn't want to experience conditional love anymore. Like with my grandparents, even though it was familial love, when they took me and they were like, okay, but if we like get you away from your mom, you have to be a Jehovah's Witness. And like granted, they were older. They probably had their reasons, like they didn't want to fight me on this, like
No.
whatever. Like I understand that, but it also like instilled this fear in me that if I didn't mind my P's and Q's, which is why I did everything, I didn't want to be secretive. Like I didn't want to, like I just wanted to be like as genuine as I possibly could in all aspects. But I knew that like they had their expectations of me and I had things that like I just didn't agree with things they had, but I also was often threatened with, do you want me to call CPS and get you taken out of here? And I was like, I'm not even doing anything bad. I just want to go hang out with my friends, like for
Yeah.
fuck's sake. And now I try to be like very careful with like who I associate with. Like you, for instance, like you were like, can I just adopt you and get you out of there already? But like you are
Yeah,
one
we
of my
tried.
favorite people in the world. You're honestly like my older brother, and I would do absolutely anything I possibly could for you, within reason. And I just
You wouldn't murder for me?
depends. Is it also going to benefit me? Just kidding. I think, considering I don't know how to even like shoot a gun, I don't know if I'm the best person to ask that.
You'd like
There's
shoot
other
someone,
ways, you
the
know.
recoil would get you in the face, like, ah.
No, thank you. Anyway, like I just try to be like very mindful of like who I hang out with and like the energy that I'm putting into this world. And I want to be someone that like my friends can rely upon like when they need me, and likewise. And I also don't want to ever feel like there's terms and conditions associated with the people around me. Like granted, like yes, you go to work, you exchange your time for money. Like that's a different thing. But when your friendships are based on like whether or not you swear, if you're like studying the Bible, or what kind of music you do or do not listen to, like it's really really rough. And like in regards to romantic love, I never really was like super sappy as a kid. Like granted, I think that this is going to sound mildly sexist, but like there's this saying where like women want love and men want respect. I think because of how I grew up, I would almost prefer respect. Like I
No.
still want to be loved, you know. However, I also don't really know, like I didn't think that I would ever get married. I didn't think that I would ever like seriously date like outside of the religion. Like I didn't think that I had any prospects whatsoever. And then when I decided that I was done with it, it was kind of like stepping into this world where like I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how to like go on actual dates. I didn't know like how to talk to people. The fact that my friends were going on like unchaperoned dates at 16, I was like, how, what, why, when, where, what, who? And it kind of felt like this is kind of a semi-dated reference, but the Divergent series by Veronica Roth. Growing up as a Jehovah's Witness, the easiest way I can liken it to is the abnegation sector, clan, or whatever in that series. Colony, I can't remember. Where you don't draw attention to yourself, and you don't dress in certain ways, and you don't speak above your station, and etc. And so when I got into the real world and I was having like all these like experience with friends and romantic partners and etc., it was like I hadn't been prepared for any of it, and I didn't want to act naive or be thought of as naive, but in a way I really was, because I was genuinely just scared. Like for the first couple years outside of the cult, I was just terrified of getting in trouble or doing something wrong, because I was still so like in that like be small, don't like make yourself seen mindset, that I feel like I've definitely come out of my shell a lot. But
Hard to
it
be small when you're
doesn't.
6'4".
I know, shorty.
Freaking you met Ty. He always sends me like random memes that he finds where it's like, oh, it's Happy Short King Day. And like he sends it to me like every 3 weeks. I was like, Ty, Happy Short
Ty's an
King Day.
icon.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, it's just, it felt like I went from one extreme to the other, from like basically nothing to the whole world is like passing me by and I'm still in this glass box.
When
So I don't
you,
know if that really answered your question, but I feel like it kind of did.
I think it definitely does. When you outside of familial love, who do you think was your first love? And it doesn't have to be like romantic. It could just be love of like friend or love of a mentor or you know, it, like I said, it doesn't have to be romantic.
I think when I met Cheyenne, she was kind of like, she's like still like one of my best friends to this day. Like I've lived so many places that I just say I have like a group of best friends and I'm kind of the glue that holds everyone together. But even like before we met in person, like I felt like I could actually like be myself around her. And she was also like very mature for her age, like when we were younger as well. And I thought she was older than me. Turns out we're 10 months apart and I'm the senior one. But I didn't feel scared to talk to her about things or ask her questions or whatever. And as a teeny bopper, that was really nice because I was so monitored, and she definitely helped like kind of like break away from like that like secluded feeling. And then like as I met you and I met Jen and I met Everton and I met Mira and I met all these other people, I'm just, and like Kinsey and Maddie, and you know, just I'm just so thankful for like everyone like in my life that has like been here through like so many thick and thin moments, because I think it's extremely important for people who are leaving cults or organized religions or whatever you want to refer to them as. Jehovah's Witness is definitely a cult, and if my family ever sees this, they're definitely never talking to me again. Oops. Depends. But when you went from, you know, drinking the Kool-Aid to suddenly your family isn't talking to you and everyone out of like 150 people in the congregation you were in were like are no longer talking to you, like having a support system is incredibly important. I feel like if it wasn't for y'all, I definitely probably would have tried to go back just because it was scary. And I'm just incredibly thankful for everyone who's just been in my life and continues to be. So oops.
When I was on, I don't know if I told you, when I went on a cruise in December, and right next to our big ship where we were docked, somewhere in Carousel, it's somewhere in the Caribbean, wherever it was, there was another ship, and me and my friend Brittany that were going to like taking a van to town. We got the same guy coming back. He's like, oh, how was your trip, y'all? Like, you know, whatever, we talk. And he's like more open now because like he's seen us before. And we got talking about one of the ships, and one of the ships that was next to us was the ship that was owned by not Jehovah's Witness, by Scientologists. And he's just like, I was like, oh my God, really? He's like, yeah, like don't, like, you know, if you take pictures from within the van. Don't go on that. He's like, I've seen people go on that ship and never come out. I was like, oh my God, no. And I don't know if he was just trying to scare all these Americans. Let me show them a good horror story time. But I don't know. It sounds very similar to some of the stories I've heard on TikTok where this lady like, oh, I have to go to the bathroom. And then she tries to go, this guy says, oh, you can go in here into my office. And it was like a Scientology building. And like, they were like very aggressive about wanting her to stay in the building after she used the bathroom, and thankfully she didn't. She like made it out. I don't know. I could just be blowing these out of proportions. These could be stories that are just stories.
Human fate traps.
I just TikTok teaches me so much. I just learned about I forget what it's called. It's like the cat, where the universe chooses who to give cats to.
Oh, the cat distribution system.
Yes, the cash distribution system.
Yeah.
That was the best rabbit hole I've ever gone down.
I love TikTok rabbit holes so much.
What's some of your favorite ones?
Oh, I can't remember her account, but there's this one creator who her name's Sarah, and I might have sent you some of her stuff, but she's like, mermaids are real, like skinwalkers and windy bagels and rakes
Did you
are
say
real.
Wendy Bagels?
Windy bagels. Flesh pedestrians. And it's just like, and she's like, gargoyles are real. And she always like shows up on my feed like between like 1:30 and 4:30 a.m. And because I'm a dumbass, I'm just like, I'm just gonna scroll through all of like these 18 new videos, and then afterwards I'm just like, great. I'm mildly creeped out. However, I'm not gonna choose any brain candy because I want the funky dreams.
There's this girl, you mentioned mermaids and other stuff. So there's one girl called Jen Scott Pickett who I have interviewed a couple times, and I know she mentioned mermaids on one of them, but she's more of like oh, hey, this mom has a story of their like 3-year-old talking about this person that I've never met before, and they do some research on the person, and the person was like involved in a murder, and like the kid solved it by identifying someone from pictures, and she's like, listen, I just went to this one thing, and then she started talking about it on TikTok, and like all of these people started commenting like, my child says some weird ass shit too,
Oh
and
my gosh, yes. Like the kids with the past lives, creepy.
yeah. And she says a good like 80% of them are like, a little like trash, but like some other 20% that she goes through is like, oh, like they send her articles, they send her things like videos, and like, oh my God, this is real. The world is such a wild place.
I wanted to be one of those kids. However, there's been like several times in my life where I've had almost like clairvoyant experiences, and it hasn't been like anything major, but it's like sometimes I'm like, is this just sheer coincidence or whatnot? Because like, for instance, I was driving across the country and I got like turned around on like this one road in this one city, and I could not get that like street name out of my head for like 3 hours into like the drive past that. And then a couple years later, I end up moving back to that same town on that same road, and I did not know until we got there.
Damn.
It was a little weird, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
So
you said those types of things you get between like 1:30 and 4:30. Is that considered like scary TikTok? Because that's like Wendigos and stuff.
Don't say that. I'm not really superstitious, but it's a meme. There's actual people. Hey, no. Huskies.
That's what you should get, the anti-demon possession tattoo. I got one. I can never remember which side of my back it's on, but it's on one of these.
I think it's on your left.
On my left?
I think so.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, like some people believe that like the witching hour is like 3 a.m., 2 a.m. sometime along in there. I don't really know much about it. Like I love creepy shit, but I also am not like super into paganism or whatnot. And I would love to be. I just kind of don't really like know where to start with that. However, I know that I follow like a lot of creators that like talk about like creepy shit.
Same.
So it's possibly just the fact that like I'm an insomniac. I'll fall asleep for a little while and I can't go to sleep until like 5 a.m. and it sucks.
I remember.
And then just because like I follow so many people, they're just videos that come up, but I really don't see like a lot of like the scarier content during the day, which is kind of weird. Like I see like a lot more like how to like make bread and like how to crochet things and knitting in the round and like all these other things that I really love to do. And I'm just like, thank you, algorithm. I love that for me.
Yeah. Yesterday I was streaming. I was playing Nintendo 64, and literally like 5 minutes after I start streaming, it might not even be that, I hear noises which sound like footsteps up here, and I live with two friends, but they're gone for the week because they're on a cruise, and they're like, all right, Chavez, you gotta protect the house. Like, okay, so like,
you gotta take care of the bunny. Don't let her eat the couch and protect the house.
yeah. So I was like, oh my God, the first day that I'm like left home alone, someone's like breaking in. So I get up, like the stream is still going on downstairs, and
when you watch Home Alone as a kid and it comes true in real life, and you're like, shit. I don't have a bucket of tar or feathers.
I was semi unprepared because I didn't take any weapons downstairs. So I get upstairs, I grab a weapon, and then I immediately scream like, everybody down, because I wanted to like, go murk some people. And then I realized that it's the bunny in her cage going, and I was like, making me think I'm crazy. So that was my
very smooth.
That was my night. So let's go back to love for a second and talk about our mutual shared love of emo, and what was your first introduction? Oh my God, night. What was your first introduction to emo music, and did you know it was called emo music at the time?
I mean, I did know. Growing up, when I still lived with my mom, we were, instead of listening to like gospel music on Saturday mornings, we were listening to ACD, Metallica, Black Sabbath, Kiss, etc. on like a little tiny like 16-inch TV with salt and pepper. So those days. God, I'm old. And so I've always liked kind of darker music. But Cheyenne sent me a link to, I think, no. It was a Black Veil Bride song, but for the life of me, I can't remember what it's called. Now I have to know, because I'm not going to be able to focus on anything else.
Alone at last we sit and... No. Was it Knives and Pens?
No, it wasn't Knives and Pins, and it wasn't In the End or Caroline.
Okay. I'm curious too, because I don't have the what do you call it? I don't have a ton of their songs in like my memory bank, because I only listen to like the same ones over and over. Keep me posted. Didn't hear from me, but okay. Where was I?
I think it was Savior. Yes, it was Savior by Black Veil Brides. And I don't know, was this 10 years ago? 10 or 11 years?
I would say, yeah.
It was definitely Savior by Black Veil Brides, and she was like, and we were talking about how like our mental health was so bad at that point. She's like, I like this song, and she's like, it reminds me of you because like you like help keep me going. And so sometimes, instead of like in Grey's Anatomy, how like Meredith and Christina would be like, you're my person, sometimes we'll just be like, you're my savior when we're having like a really, really bad day. And it just a little offended to my brain, a little offended at my brain that like I didn't remember at that point in time, but
Yeah. Okay, so you started with Black Veil Brides. What was the did that send you down the rabbit hole of just Black Veil Brides, or just like, all right, I gotta listen to everything now?
I kind of was just like, I gotta listen to everything. And a lot of like, I mean, I knew the Killers, I knew I knew like Seven Nation Army, like I knew a lot of these bands. Like I knew of Blue October because of like stuff I had like grown up listening to. So like I was just like a mildly emo child without realizing that I was an emo child, because like I liked all this stuff. And then I started listening to, Panic at the Disco, and I've seen them twice. Turns out Brendan Urie really did close the goddamn door on the band. Sad. And, I knew of Fall Out Boy, and I knew of like MCR, and I knew of like Cascada.
Oh, I love her. Oh,
like I knew of them, and I knew of like Nightcore, and like I knew of all these things, but I didn't listen to them like as frequently or as much because I was like very much in my country music phase. And then I did a 180 and then it just sent me down the rabbit hole of being a little edgelord. And you know, by that point, like I got really into like wanting piercings, and I started looking at like tattoo ideas. And you know, the really, really thick raccoon eyeliner that I used to do. We will not be showing pictures of that
I
because
was just about to look.
everyone knows the vibe. And so it was a good time. And a lot of the music like ended up really helping my mental health, even though from like an outside perspective, some people might think that it might have made it worse, but I feel like it helped. And
Yeah.
I'm thankful for like the communities that like I found like via that. And I know that, like we've bonded a lot over that. And it definitely also helped make me a lot less reserved about like alternative lifestyles and like alternative fashion and whatnot, because, you know, I was used to everyone looking like a certain way and acting a certain way. And I was like, wow, like there's a whole world out here. So it definitely helped me leave the Jehovah's Witnesses in a very convoluted way.
Yeah, that's music is that expression of self where I've had this conversation before with my friend Nicole where some things.
Anybody know why it feels like my shoulder just catches right here, and like it feels like itchy on the inside, and I have to like kind of mildly pop it out of the socket to like make it go away? Or is that just a weird, stupid, spicy, neurospicy sensory issue?
Did you sleep on it?
No, it's always like that. Like it always feels like I have to click my shoulders. And it's not like an OCD thing. It just like hurts if I don't. Anyway, it's probably getting thrown against walls as a kid. Anyway, what about Nicole?
She likes screamo music and so do I. And I feel like a lot of the stuff that's super emo or emotional or screamo, it's because, you know, some people can't express things in writing or in just speaking. They have to sing it. I also think people can take it one step further where they can't just sing it and they have to scream it. And that's the only way they could like get it out. And I don't know, I love that feel. I love the but that being said, you mentioned before that you were never that sappy, and I never really was either, but in like the last couple months, I don't know why, but I've been getting really into rom-coms.
Yes. Okay, listen, I love rom-coms and K-dramas and soap operas, and not like Days of Our Lives, like Grey's Anatomy soap operas. Let's figure out. I'm not that old.
Yeah.
But like, yes, like it's not so much like a like sappiness, but just like, oh, like that's so cute.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just,
wait, what are your favorite rom-coms? Let's see if we have any mutuals, because I did not know this was a thing.
so this one was, I don't want to say old. It was one I know is really old, but this one is maybe like 10 years old. I forget the name of it. It's with Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock. And Sandra Bullock's like this boss lady.
Are you talking about The Proposal?
Yeah. That's one.
I fucking love The Proposal.
Oh my god! Yeah. Oh, Betty White's in that.
I watched that when I was like 10, maybe. So like around the time ish that it came out. I think it came out in like 2009. So yeah, I was like 10. But oh my gosh, yeah, that movie is hysterical. I watch it at least once a year.
You watch those also. I watch Pokemon movies once a year.
How
Gotta
do
have
you
them out.
feel about like The Labyrinth or The Princess Bride? Because those are like top tiers in my life.
Princess Bride is great. Like that's a classic. Labyrinth, I'll go lie, I never saw it.
We're
No.
fucking watching it.
Maybe.
Yes.
I don't know. But part of the reason why I think I've gotten into it is because that's just something that I never explored. You know, from the time I was like young or like a teenager, it was like Lord of the Rings and shooting people, and I still love all of those stuff, but I just never saw a lot of experiences of people like actually finding happiness and actually finding love. And I don't know, it's just interesting. It's like, it's nice to see because, you know, maybe you don't see that every day in real life, but you can choose to see it in fiction, which is trying to portray real life.
For sure. I totally get that.
I'd say animated stuff too that has certain types of like, well, you said K dramas. Is that live action
Korean
or
dramas, like live action Korean dramas? I like J dramas too, and C dramas and Taiwanese. I basically like any kind of drama, if I'm being honest. Like it depends like directly on the plot, whether or not like I'm gonna be in like the description, but like I will pretty much watch most things to like see if I will like it.
Yeah. Fruits Basket I've always loved, but when I read that the first time, it was more of like the rebellion thing. Like, oh, here's this girl that is making it on her own. She's washing her clothes in the river, and then she's help. Um, now I think if I were to read it, it would probably be obviously it is a love story, but it's a love story on many different levels. Shigure is such a slut. It just gangs everyone.
You are Shigure in real life. Like, don't even.
Yeah, I have so much to tell you. Can I say it? I probably shouldn't say it here. Yeah, I'll tell you off camera. We'll end it
Okay.
a little early and we'll do that. Um,
Ha, bitches. I get bonus content.
the yeah, so I love that type of stuff. You haven't seen BoJack Horseman yet, have you?
I've seen some episodes. It's kind of weird. Like some older episodes of South Park. I like American Dad sometimes. I like Family Guy sometimes. I don't like Rick and Morty. I know it's a sin. Don't come for me. I don't really like it that much. Like I've had kind of like a hard time getting into like the newer animation stuff. Um, I know that like when I was in high school, my family basically banned me from like all anime and like all K-drama stuff because they thought it was negatively influencing my attitude. I'm like, y'all make me miserable. Like I'm trying my best not to have an attitude here. Like let me have some form of entertainment. Obviously it didn't work.
No.
But I got more into like watching shows with like live people instead of just voiceovers because I had to find something that like they could walk into my room and not yell at me for.
No.
Um, but I've tried multiple times to watch Rick and Morty, and like I've tried a few times to watch BoJack
Can't get
Horseman. Like
into it.
I've seen a few episodes of Archer. I definitely prefer Archer over the other two. I kind of like Bob's Burgers. I have to be like in a really specific like mood to watch that kind of stuff. And if I am in that mood, I'm probably gonna try to keep catching up on Shippuden.
That's fair. I
Like
some of
I'm
those
so far
things.
into Shippuden, and I've been trying to watch it since I was 14, and I'm still not freaking done. And I'll watch like 50 episodes in one sitting and not touch it for like 6 months.
Damn. Have you seen Avatar: The Last Airbender?
I've not seen the new one. I really liked the
Okay.
old one though.
Okay, so you haven't seen Legend of Korra, which I love, but
Oh
yeah,
wait, you said Avatar. Yeah, I've seen that, and I've seen parts of it, and I've seen parts of Legends of Korra. I thought you meant like
oh,
the
oh,
Avatar
the
James
blue
Cameron thing.
Indian Avatar, no, the Last Airbender. I don't know, I like those because it's really good, and then also kind of a love story as well. They have love in Legend of Korra, but I wouldn't. Well, I guess I won't spoil it, but yeah, I don't know. I love them both. They're really good.
Doesn't she? Isn't there like a moon character that she's like obsessed with?
No, that's what Sokka is obsessed with because
Oh, okay.
he had a girlfriend that turned into the moon. And I love that meme where it's like, my girlfriend turned to the moon, and then Zuko's like, it's rough, buddy.
Hey,
Like, how do you respond to that?
what's your favorite Studio Ghibli movie?
Um, does no, I guess Totoro. Everyone probably loves that. I'd say
I've never seen it.
it's. I mean, I'm gonna go out. So animation's beautiful. What he did for anime in general is great. The movies are okay to me. Respect them, but they're okay
That's fair.
in my opinion. But yeah, so the same way why you was like, Rick and Morty's meh, Studio Ghibli is good. I know it's his place in history, but it's like, to me.
I would watch it if like I really didn't feel good and I need something calm, like when I was sick. But I'm not gonna like watch it like when I'm just like up and like I want to watch something like more exciting, you know?
You got big life energy. What is the most surprising thing that you think you've done in your adult life that would have shocked even your younger self?
Gotten married to a dude.
It's true. What I
Soon to be
remember.
divorced. I'm so excited, and that's all we're saying about that.
Okay, yeah, I remember Everton trying so hard to like turn you to like the straight side because like in love with you.
It sounds awful, but like it was I don't think we ever like loved each other. Like truly, I think it was a marriage of convenience at first, and then it
Yeah.
turned into just domestic violence and awful shit. And I got trapped.
Yeah.
And so like I'm very thankful that like the divorce process is like on its merry fucking way, and hopefully it'll be done next month because fuck that noise.
There's
Because
no
did I ever tell you about what I was doing the day that like gay marriage got legalized?
no what were I got a story about it, but you go first. You go first.
So I couldn't sleep, and like obviously by this point I was in high school and had like my own laptop and my own passwords and my own like VPN. Um, but I was like, well, I can't sleep. I might as well just watch Brokeback Mountain
That's such a
because
cliche.
I've heard so many weird things about it, and I want to see like why people like talk shit on it and also like are weary of it. It was sad. Like I cried, and I don't cry easily at things. And then it it was like 5:30 in the morning, and I finished the movie, and I switch over to Facebook, and my feed is just filled with like all things pride and all things gay marriage, and I'm like, holy shit. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I was crying because of the movie, and then I was crying because that was happy, and then I was texting my girlfriend, and I was like, oh my god. So yeah, I genuinely thought that I was just gonna marry a woman and be done with it.
I,
But yeah, I don't think I'm ever gonna marry a dude again. Time will tell.
what if
I'm not
he's
opposed to
like
it, but definitely wasn't married to the right person.
what if he's like and this is I think this is definitely where men, men and women differ. One of the places I feel like a lot of men, um, if they if there's a woman that's like, worth 8 or 9 figures interested in them, and they're sharing that with the man will be like, "Yep, I will do whatever you want to do, honey." What if there was like this really interesting man that came into your life that happened, and let's say you don't love him like romantically, but he's an okay enough dude, and he just wanted to share his millions with you. Would you be like, daddy?
I don't know. I don't know. Like I've never really thought about it. Probably not. Like I think I would like if I'm gonna do like the whole marriage thing again, I think I really want to like healthily be on like the same page with someone and actively be working to like maintain that and make it better and work on ourselves and all that jazz. Because I am to the point where I'm nowhere near done like healing through my trauma. I don't think anybody's ever truly done healing through their trauma, but I refuse to be stagnant about
Okay.
it. I'm always trying to find some way to like implement good things or read some kind of like I read Marsha Linehan's book on dialectical behavioral therapy, and even though like I haven't been like diagnosed with like any conditions, I actually got undiagnosed from like the condition that's about. It was still like really really interesting because she created DBT based on her own experience as a teenager trying to figure out her mental health as a way to help other people through their borderline personality disorder. And even though like there's a lot of things that like didn't really apply to me, I still learned so much just from reading it. And I really try hard to soak in as much like helpful information as I can, just because I never know like when it might apply later.
The There's a lot in the so you are definitely a better, more truthful person to yourself than I am. Because if Granny comes at me with like $100 million, marrying, it's going down.
I
But
mean, truthfully, I'm also like wary of like the whole money thing because I have like grown up so poor my entire life that I'm trying to like go to school to do like bigger and better things, and I'm not even going to school like for the money. The money is just like a nice added benefit, but like I genuinely want to help people with the profession that I'm choosing. And I think I'd almost rather just make my own money and have my own security, because there were a lot of alcoholic struggles, not me, but with the person I was with. And that like severely like hindered like our financial goals and stuff. And we were never financially secure, even though we brought in decent money for not finishing school. And it was very, very, very stressful. And I think I would rather just be safe and have my own financial like independence.
That's a good plan. I think part of the reason why my last relationship, at least part of the reason, went kaput, is like you said, you wanted to actively work on relationships and heal from past trauma and all that jazz. We only saw each other. It was like once a week, but it was I'd go there on a Friday and I'd leave on a Sunday. She would work during the week. It was more of the fact that I don't know, we wouldn't take 30 minutes a week to like talk about the relationship or do whatever. It would just, I mean, we would have fun and we would do other stuff, but it just wasn't that.
So do you feel like you were lacking like the emotional connection versus just like the physical connection? Because like the physical connection was strong, but you weren't like maintaining that emotional connection, or like maintaining that like sense of like life balance of like, how is this impacting us? How is this impacting us like together and individually and whatnot?
Yeah, we very rarely talked about like our two communal goals, like where we were both successful in our she was a veterinarian, and me being in finance, having two businesses at the time. I actually retired when I was with her, and
wild. You're like not even like 30.
I was 30 at the time, so I wish I could have made that video when I was in my 20s.
Truth be told, I know that you were like what, 19 in the military when we met.
I was 19 when I moved out. I was 22 when I was in the military.
Okay, so you were like 20, 21-ish when we met. My brain like defaults you to being like 27 all the time, so you're welcome. You're probably like, she's 12.
Yeah. Because when we first met, although because I was a kid that was very anti-authority, and I was working since I was 14, and I've had this idea, and I was better than my parents were with money and doing stuff responsibly. I was like, and part of that was just being adopted and just coming from a different set of parents that had different, IQs, habits, whatever. The bad stuff like alcoholism didn't come out until later, but this was I grew up thinking that, okay, people do not take teenagers seriously. And I thought it was for bad reasons, because I grew up on like the Dragon Ball Z, Gohan saved the world when he was a kid. There's teen Gohan. There you have all these stories like Stranger Things and all these stories about kids doing things that grown-ups would refuse to do. And kids like, no, this is the right thing to do. This is whatever. And so I still feel this way, that I feel like a lot of kids, especially teenagers, are undervalued and underappreciated in what they can
underestimated as well.
Yeah. Now that being said, I now understand that a lot of, you take a lot of unnecessary risks. A lot of times you're really stupid. You don't have that life experience. But at the time, I was like, oh, you're 14. Okay, you could work, you're whatever. You're an adult. That's fine. Where I still, I don't know, I still feel like that. If I were to have kids, I'd be like, okay, you're gonna, even though you can't legally work until you're 14, you're gonna be working, doing stuff for me, and I'll pay you. I'll give you a commensurate rate. But I still believe that there's a lot of people that I'd met when I was younger that were more mature than a lot of the adults that I had knew at the time. Obviously, you included in that. Forget where this conversation was before we went to the. Thank you for telling me I was young. That made my day.
I was like, I'm invested in the sentences right now.
I have to show you a photo that I don't know if I've shown you. My friend Lilith sent it to me. You never met Lilith, did you?
No, but I would love to someday. And like going off of like the whole underestimated thing, had my grandparents not died and had they not been like my main source of sanity and like support, like my aunt and uncle like definitely tried their best, but like my grandparents were like my main familial like bond.
Yeah.
when I graduated high school at 16. I don't know why I'm so raspy all of a sudden. And I, was already like in college at that point, and you were doing the NASU thing at some point. I think that's how it's pronounced.
The
And
what thing?
I would have graduated with my associate's degree at 19, and I would have had my bachelor's at 21. But when my grandma died when I was 18, I lost all will for life. And I left school and didn't get the money paid back until the first stimulus check.
Yeah.
Like I had 5,000 to like pay back, and I only had like that much left, and it was like a blessing in disguise to like be able to just send that, even though it sucked to have it for like literally 20 minutes. But like I'm glad that I was able to like pay it off, but like I just wish that like I would have had like a better support system in order to do that, because some of my family members really judge me for like not having like a solid like career at this point, and like they judge me for the fact that if bosses are shitty, like I'm not gonna put myself through that for like barely over like not even a living wage, because what is a living wage at this point? And
Differs.
a lot of people like did like underestimate me. Like a lot of people were like, you're probably just going to get pregnant at 16 and be a dropout. Like you have nothing going for you. And I was like, not only did that spur me into action to like prove them wrong, and like I wish I would have like done my degrees. I just physically and mentally couldn't at that point. And like now I've switched majors completely, so that's just nullified. But it always felt like, not with every adult, like you definitely like helped a lot and like encouraging me to like keep going and like pursue my goals. And like I've always loved you for that. The fact that like you're such a go-getter, and I definitely consider you like one of my mentors, and I bug you about all sorts of things. But there were a lot of, I don't want to say haters, but like there were just a lot of adults that just severely like underestimated me and like a lot of my friends. And it definitely did not help like our trust in the world. And like now that like I'm an adult, and I know like a lot of like kids that are like about to like become teenagers, like I try to do what you did. Like I try to like talk to them about their goals. I try to like explain how like starting college works. I try to explain like how like workplace dynamics work. Like I try my best to like give them like knowledge and stuff if they ask for it, that I wish I would have known. And I feel really old explaining this. I feel really old all of a sudden. But I just wish that instead of the adults, like some of the adults in my life underestimating me, I wish there would have been more support and more encouragement and more open-ended conversations,
There's I also feel like if there I 100% get that. But for me, when I was young, like super young, like teenager young, I feel like there was nobody that believed in me, and that's what kind of pushed me to like become the best that I could be. That's what put. But when you say like, oh, you're 23 and you're about to be 24 soon, and be like, oh, I don't have a career yet. When I don't necessarily consider the military it wasn't a career for me. It's a career for
because
people
you're
that are
not a
in it.
lifer. You did your stint and you got the benefits, and
Yeah.
If you were a
The
lifer, that would have been like a military career.
Yeah, that's a career.
Or like that's how I think of it.
But I tried to go to school when I was 26. I didn't like it. It didn't work out. So I fell into.
I remember that. It almost like spurred your alcoholism more, because from my point of view, I'm not judging you for it, but from my point of view, it felt like you had left the military. You were trying to get back on your feet in like a normal, like everyday, like sense. And you're like, okay, let's do this GI Bill thing. And then you were like, this fucking sucks. And
Yeah.
then it felt like you almost like felt like you were in a glass box of like things like expectations, but you were here and you're like, this makes no sense. I'm just gonna try to process. Like that's kind of the vibe that I got, and you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, and I mean that in conjunction with the fact that I had my friends, my support system that I had that were physically around me, some of them were still in Jersey while I was in New York, but most of the rest of them were scattered throughout the world. And I didn't see them for a while. I could talk to them on, Facebook, or call them on the phone every now and then. But, then I had school and I was working, and I had 4 relationships in 2017 that all just one bad after the other.
I remember. And then also, I don't know if you've talked about her on this, like the Ukrainian girl that like you were really, really like in love with. Like we can talk about it later, but like I know that like you were really torn up about that for like a long time. And then when the whole issues with like Russia and Ukraine like started happening, like I feel like that really brought that back for you. And like I also noticed like a dip in that respect and like your like general like vibe. And I was like, I don't know how to help her before.
Yeah, that was I still get I still get salty about the like a bunch of the relationships in between countries where why were we I there's some things I actually can't say, but there's, especially when it's not your fault. Like if it's something like I was talking about before with my most recent ex, where I wasn't fulfilling some of the things that she wanted to be happy. Okay, that relationship ends. That's my fault. A lot of stuff in 2017 ends. I could attribute a lot of that back to me. But when 2 countries or countries go to war and one country has a hand in helping that, and none of this was my fault, and I can't go and help, like the woman that I love as we're due to be married because I'm under contract with one of those. It's like, this was complete, not my fault. I was angry at the universe. I was angry at any higher power that there was. I would have taken on anyone. I was so freaking salty.
Yeah, I remember that vividly. And like, I am like a very like empathetic, sympathetic person. And like, I was like angry for you because like, I like could feel like how distraught you were. And I just like, I worried for her. And like, I was like worried when you were like in Kuwait, and like,
yeah. So this is like a year ago now.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I remember that too. But I just like, and like, not even like in the military sense, like not even like, I've never ever like wanted to enlist. Like Jehovah's Witnesses are naturally like very anti-military, and like I'm thankful that like I haven't had to enlist or whatnot. And I also have health conditions that would probably bar me. But like even from like a civilian standpoint of like watching all this crazy shit in the world go down, and like knowing that like you just genuinely want to help the people that are like being affected, and like knowing that you really can't do anything, and like if you send money you don't know if it's actually going to help those people. Like it's like they say it is, but like is it though? Like we would only hope, and it's just like it's just so like heartbreaking to hear of like all these accounts. And it's just like when, like for instance, what is her name, the girl who got shot in the face like 10 years ago, who like is not like a public speaking person.
Malalia.
Yes, her.
I forget her. Yeah. Malala.
So, yes, her.
Yeah.
Like I was like shook. I was like, oh my gosh, like this poor girl. Like I wanted to go help her. Like obviously I didn't speak her language. I didn't know anything about her. Like I just like wanted to go help. And like there was a senator in Arizona who like got shot in the face, and like, oh my gosh, like that's heartbreaking. Like I want to go help her. And like I think that's part of like why I've chosen the career path that I have, that even though it isn't like, on like an international scale, like I'm still helping people in some way. Or is it just the semi-millennial oldest sister taking care of everybody trauma that makes people in my situation go into like careers that help people? I saw a rant on that on TikTok, and I was like, you know what? Don't call me out like this.
I mean, women in general tend to go into those fields that, childcare or, psychiatry or psychology or nursing, women healers. So that kind of makes sense. So, I mean, like I said, I kind of fell into like those careers. Like I didn't know what I wanted to do. The one thing that I knew I wanted to do, and it just happened by accident, was the Pokemon card business. I just was collecting them, and then I found out, oh, you can make a lot of money with these.
That was so wild. Like, I don't know if you still do it, but I was like, how the like, I don't even know how these cards work. And then you're like, this one sold for 100,000. I was like, excuse me. It's awesome though. It's pretty sick, but it's just like, I didn't think that like little pieces of cardstock could be so important, but I guess it's kind of akin to baseball cards.
Yeah. And you get a bunch of kids that, loved them in the 90s, and suddenly they had big boy jobs, and and I could see people spending a couple hundred, or even a couple thousand on some of these, which they did, and I did. But it took real guts to spend 5 figures on a card, because you don't know, what could happen. So when I did that for one of my cards, even people in the Pokemon community were like, "It's too much, man. It's too much." I was like, "No, it's not." And then, so clearly people on the outside, they're just like, they like lost respect for me. Like that could like feed children in Africa for like 10 years. Like it could, but the money would make it. Like, trust me. And then, yeah, so I got lucky because I was born at a time that I was in the Pokemon craze, and I was in, and now there's technology, and like no one was looking at Pokemon really like investments, or not too many people were anyway, and nobody had that money, so it was very exciting. I'll get back into it once crypto goes back up. I sold pretty much everything for crypto.
Speaking of, you should teach me how crypto and stuff works, because I am so fucking confused, but I don't want to be like on the outside of this. It's a discussion for another time.
So
but like, when you were doing the Pokemon thing, like I was really proud of you, because I was like, yeah, make that money, get that bread, get it, But I was just like, how the fresh fuck? What the fresh snack are you doing, broski?
Did you ever watch Sesame Street when you were younger?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, so there's this.
I didn't really like it, but I watched it. Was my favorite character the Count? Yes.
So there's this. So there's Cookie Monster, and this is not just like a toy. So this is a digital collectible. It's and somebody put the chicken or the rooster from Moana on there, because that's another collectible. But you have this is an NFT. So this is a non-fungible token. It's a collector's item. Sesame Street went and it's not like somebody just randomly made this. It's from Sesame Street. It's from that Sesame Workshop, and they partnered with this company called Vivi, and like, hey, we know you guys make digital collectibles and the artwork is very good. We want to make some for some of our characters, because a lot of that money will go towards, what they do over at PBS and in other countries. And there's only 5,465 that could ever be bought, and you can get it right now for like $45. It's $60 retail, but some people are selling it, or they're buying it and then they're selling it for less because they want a certain mint number. So they're like gambling in a sense. They're trying to buy it. I don't get it. They sell it. I just feel like things like that, like collectibles, like the first appearance of Mickey Mouse or Spider-Man on the blockchain, are really big. So I have a bunch of NFTs, and the crypto associated with it is called OMI. I feel like you've heard me talk about that a couple times before. That's what I threw my whole life savings into, and we'll see what happens in 6 months to a year.
You better come back up. I want to go see you again.
Well, yeah, we'll have that. Is it good? Should we talk about the last time that you came up? What details should we leave out if we?
You know how you gave me like a certain item like right as I got into the car from the airport? Let's leave that out.
Okay.
It was fucking amazing. Okay, listen, I went to New York right before the world ended, and I tell a lot of people this, like, it's just something that it was an amazing experience, and I loved it so much, and it was so fun hanging out with Randy again. And like where we were staying was like absolutely beautiful. It was like right on the water, and Mark and his wife and
Laura, is it?
Laura, yes.
Yeah.
Like I love them and I miss them, and like it was so much fun. I remember like going to the gym, and like at that point, like I really didn't know anything about the gym, and I didn't like going to the gym, and I was like, ew, I'm getting sweaty. And now I like going to the gym. Look at me go. Gross.
Yeah.
But I feel like you picked up like the heaviest like freaking like weight, and I was just like, no. I was like, that's really impressive. I'm just gonna stand here and watch you work out.
Yeah, in 2019, I was in very good shape. I still have not recovered from the pandemic. Like I'm starting to get in better shape now, but I was very not good looking for quite a while. But for some time I was a beefcake.
Oh yes,
Um,
yes.
and
I think your name on Messenger is Mr. Fiery Fist of Fury because you've always really been into boxing
yeah,
and like gym workouts and stuff. And like when I like describe you to people, I'm like, yeah, he's a beefcake. So you're welcome.
oh,
There's your ego trip.
that makes me feel so good.
I was like, he's like a real life teddy bear, but he's a beefcake.
Oh, tell all your girlfriends about that, please. That
Wow.
that makes me feel so happy. I describe you as like an Amazon because you're so tall and just I guess how would I describe you emotional? I guess, and I mean this in the best way, like kind of like a mom because you had to grow up really quickly. And I feel like you'd definitely be like the mom of the group. And just be like,
Definitely a mom friend. Maddie actually makes fun of me a little bit because he's like, "You're such a grandma," and I'm like, "Yes, yes, I am." Catch me baking, catch me crocheting, catch me knitting, catch me doing
oh God, the
embroidery stuff. Kind of, I'm trying to get into that.
your biscuits and gravy. Oh my God. I know that sounded a little sexual, but you know what?
No, I literally made him Southern biscuits and gravy, and like I have a Southern accent, but I mask it a lot just because of like living in different states. But I converted him to the dark side.
You also looked at me like I was crazy when I didn't like the water down in Arkansas
I didn't
because
like the water in Arkansas. Okay, listen, tap water is normally nasty, and then you were like, listen, the water in Long Island is delicious. And I was like, bullshit, no tap water is delicious. And then when I went there, I
I forgot
immediately
about it.
tried it and I was like, this is like drinking from like the like you know when you like sleep and you wake up and you like drink that water and it tastes good for like a split second, except for it was the whole time. It was amazing. Like I crave that water every fucking day. Like I don't think you understand how much I genuinely crave that water.
So there's a
Maybe you do.
big
You did like
thing.
move across the world for a while, but like,
Yeah, that's true.
ugh,
There's
tap water is nasty. Like I have a zero water filter, and even that's okay. But I want like the good water through my zero water filter.
so people have figured out why New York pizza is so good and why the rest of the
it's
world is like, eh. It's
it's
because of the water.
water.
So a lot of people they're opening up pizza shops down in Florida and they're paying the money to ship the water from New York to Florida so they can make the pizza with New York water.
It's wild.
And yeah, it's like how much is that cutting into the profits? But apparently it works because you have New York pizza.
However, consider you're moving to Florida, so you'll still get your good pizza. I will say
Yes.
that when we went to Times, like when we went like into the city, and like that was, I never like understood how like many like I had like seen like pictures of like Times Square like on the news and stuff, but like it was surreal. Like it was so pretty, and
Crowded.
I finally understood like the New York mile versus a New York minute. Holy fucking shit, man. Like trying to walk through crowds took for fucking ever. And like I was like trying to like keep a good attitude, but I was like, if we don't get someplace where I can get food, I'm going to die on this sidewalk right now and people will trample me.
Oh,
Like that was going through my head and I was like, oh thank goodness we got food.
the food was great. I think my favorite
Tiernanog
place.
was so fun. I want to go over there again someday.
Which one?
Tiernanog or however it's
Oh
pronounced.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that place.
It was so freaking cool. Like it was ornately beautiful and like the vibe and like the food was really good. And like granted now I'm old enough to drink, so like we can actually hardy party. I will be compensating with a crap ton of water though.
Yeah, I can't. Oh yeah, I can't wait. We'll have a good time. Yeah, you were only like 19.
I was let's
Yeah,
see,
because
that
I had
was
done. Yeah, you were 19.
2019. So I was 20. I was 20.
Oh, you were 20. Yeah, yeah. Because I had. Oh, so I did see you in 2017 when you were 18.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I stand corrected. Raythax.
Alaska
I
has
think
the
it's super
best
chat.
water. Oh, and did he pay you $20? That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. This
That's
super chat.
awesome.
Yeah,
Thanks,
he's
dude.
great. We love Raythax. He's one of the best homies.
Way to go, Raythax.
So it says home state.
Thank you for the input.
Also talking about VV, Earth 2, and ETH domains for the win. We're talking about investing before. All right, so you know how like people sometimes sell websites because of like the name, like X.com. I think my friend Jeremy tried to buy X.com, but he was actually beaten out by Elon Musk. This is like 10 or 15 years ago.
Elon Musk is such a dweeb.
he's
like
a meme
he
lord.
he looks like the grown-up version of like a haunted Victorian like black-eyed child. like he looks like he's like going to like contact, like he looks like he was a Victorian child who contacted tuberculosis, died, and was reborn into the modern world.
Oh my god, so I've never heard him
You can't
described like
unsee
that.
it now, can you?
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. And anyway, I think Elon bought it for like 10 grand, and my friend Jeremy's like, "Hey, I'll give you 12 grand for it right now." And Elon just emails him back, like, "No." So like, but now that's worth so much money. I don't think Elon would ever sell it. But so that's what like the computer websites are. ETH domains are pretty much the same thing, where you could make a domain name. I have some for Chaveztopia. Link down below for Chaveztopia on Earth 2. It's a metaverse. It's great. But they have like Starbucks.eth and they have like Muhammad.eth. Wraithax, I think, has like Muhammad.eth, or he has like Allah.eth. Someone, I guarantee you, is going to pay him. I think he's already declined 5-figure offers for it. Like, he's ahead of the curve in every single thing. Like, Wraithax is daddy. He's we'll talk more about that at some point. I just love him. I forget what we were talking about before. Oh, food, New York, yeah. And yeah, you can drink now. We'll introduce you. You've never had a Long Island iced tea from Long Island, have you?
No. Do they make them different there? Like, I know it's a bunch of alcohol and like a splash of Coke, and it kind of tastes like tea, but is it different?
Yeah, I mean, it's they're usually a little more aggressive with the alcohol. They're usually a little.
It's already aggressive with the alcohol.
I know. That was my drink of choice while I had them on the cruise for my birthday, which is great. Wraithax had someone offer him 18,000, and he's been not even close. What a madman!
That's a lot of money.
And
like the thing is, it's like when like I had never like really, I had gone from like Arkansas to Arizona like several times flying, but that was like my first like big flight like as an adult. And like I had gotten to like the airport in Arkansas like super freaking early. I had like sat in O'Hare for like a hot minute. I wandered around JFK for so long. But like it was stupid because like every time I like when I found the terminal and I sat down, like I was still scared that I was at the wrong place. And I was like, is that just a universal feeling? Or is that just my own anxiety of being stupid?
Yeah, so when I was younger and I was much poorer, this is like 2012 maybe. I remember getting and this was so stupid, but I've done it all the times leading up to that and I was fine. But I got like a pretzel. I spent like $10 for a pretzel in the airport. I dropped some of it, like half of it. I was like, oh no. So it literally landed on the floor for half a second. Picked it up, still ate it. And then of course I got sick. But I was young and I was poor and I just, you know what? I did not want to waste food like that. So now I will, even if something falls on like a counter, which I know is clean, nope, can't do it. I just have to I can't eat it.
I remember one time I had gone and hung out with like this Jehovah's Witness family, and like they had 2 boys that were like, I was like between their ages. And we had gone to the state fair and like I don't even like know how that happened because like that was like during the time that I was getting ostracized, and I don't know if they just like randomly decided to take me with or my grandparents had asked, but I don't know. But it was like the state fair part was fun. Like we had gone to Taco Bell, and you know how I feel about Taco Bell. It's taco hell, it's gross, but you love it, so more power to you. But I had gotten like this drink and I had like this much left, and I was like always raised like never to like waste food, like usually leftovers in like different ways. Like I definitely grew up in like an ingredient household, not like a snack household. We can get into that later if you want. But with that, like Lauren was like, yeah, you can't take that in the car. My mom won't let you. but I was like so full from like all of like the like snack, like fair food and like the Taco Bell and everything that like I had so much anxiety throwing it away, even though it was like this much soda. And it's just wild how like, you know, just different perspectives and like how you were raised like affects just like general food.
Yeah. Like I think part of the reason why I gained a lot of weight over the last few years is because you know, you always finish what's on your plate. You got to finish what's on your plate. So even if it was like, I'm already full, but still just because, yeah. And I didn't realize how much that kind of hecked me up
No,
until
for sure.
yeah.
When I finally got on depression meds as an adult, like I was never had scallops. When I finally got on depression meds in September of 2021, I think
Mhm.
it really helped like my binge eating disorder. And like now I'm on meds that like make weight loss like really difficult, but at least I don't want to die. But once I started, you know, feeling better, I really started trying to like listen to my body with like intuitive eating instead of the whole mindset of like you have to finish your plate, and if like all else fails, like I will just cover it and put it in the fridge and like have it for like my next meal.
Yeah.
Because like I know that, and it was like a struggle like when I was like still, you know, in that whole like married relationship thing, like thankfully we're separated, but it was like very stressful to try to like be healthy, and like I could not be healthy in that, like no matter how much I tried, like it was just like it was impossible essentially. And like now I've noticed like now that I'm like intuitively eating and like drinking water, like when I feel slightly hungry but not all the way hungry, like not only have I lost some weight, but I mentally feel better. Like I don't feel like as mentally foggy, and that was like before Adderall. Like I think my whole body just felt so sluggish. And it's just wild to me like how much like food consumption like actually affects things.
Yeah. So speaking of Adderall, how did I have a story about how I took it. How did you take it? And how did it affect you?
So I got diagnosed with ADHD as a kid, but my mom had Munchausen's by proxy over me, and only and like didn't actually pay attention to the medical issues that I had, only the ones she made up.
Mm.
And so I was on like a bunch of like different medications that I didn't need, and like a whole bunch of stuff like I had really adverse reactions to. And like I was in the gifted program like at school, and like I was always really good at school, but didn't I also like had a fear of like not doing well in school, because I knew that if I didn't do well in school, whether it was behavior or grades, like I would get in a lot of trouble at home. I'd probably get beat. So like my grades were always exceptional. My attendance, my attitude in school, everything, my extracurriculars, the whole 9 yards that I was allowed to do, which extracurriculars were far and few between.
Yeah.
However, as an adult, I have been struggling to like get diagnosed as an adult. Like I've been trying to since I was 18, and I finally was able to get formally diagnosed in August of last year. And then I started on Adderall in February. And it really, really helps. Instead of my mind feeling like there's a million tabs open and six are playing different music, I can actually focus on a conversation. Like had I not taken my Adderall today, this would not go as well as it's going.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And because like you've known me for years, like you know that like we've changed it a little bit, but you know like how worse it used to, like it used to be way worse. And so I'm very, very thankful for it. And I know that there's like a shortage going on of like the XR and the IR. But I also kind of wish that I was neurotypical and could experience Adderall the different way, because I know that like it affects people who don't have ADHD differently. And I just wish that for like one day I could like reverse the effects of it just to see how it is, because I don't understand how that works really. Like I've heard stories of people like cleaning like mason jars with toothbrushes. But yeah, it's been really beneficial for me. I think I want to go adjust my dosage to something a little bit higher,
Yeah.
but I'm thankful for the fact that I'm doing a lot better with it. Anyway, so how does it affect you?
So I most likely have ADHD because my brain
Did it get
uh,
really quiet?
my brain does no, it never gets quiet.
When you took the Adderall?
Um yes and no. Instead of, like you said, a bunch of different tabs being open, and let's say instead of me being 70% here and 30% thinking about other things and write things down, calculate things, it was all focused on, I took it to play video games. And I I played Pokemon Puzzle League probably for like 14 hours straight. And I think I went to the bathroom once. And I just it was just wild to go and do that because I get really not bored. I just like, oh, I have to do this. Oh, I have to do this. And finally I was able to sit down and just become the best. Like just become the best at that game or like at Pokemon or whatever. Um so my friend Sue used to give me, and this I haven't taken it in a long time, but my friend Sue used to have it. It's like, you want some Adderall? I was like, okay, I'll try it. And then I was like, whoa. Yeah. So that was my experiences.
It almost also kind of felt like I like generally like in my head it kind of feels like I'm in like a really loud stadium like with a bunch of like people like in a full crowd, and there's just like constant like thoughts and like voices, and not like delusion voices but just like trains of thought just going every which way, and it's just like, and then when I took the Adderall, like it was like going from like that to like a quiet room, and I was really weirded out for like by it for like a day, and then I was like, this is so nice, is this how existing is supposed to be?
Did
I'm
you
like, I
know that
try not to take my Adderall every day. I only really take it like when I'm working or like when I have to do something like important like this.
Yeah.
But I've noticed like even on the days where I don't take my Adderall, my ADHD symptoms like aren't as bad. Like it's still like it's like a crowd of like 30 instead of like a crowd of like 200. It's almost like I've like kind of Pavloved my brain into like being calmer, because like it's what I'm just generally expecting now, and I feel like I'm just tricking myself into feeling better when I'm not on my meds. It's like the placebo effect.
There's there's a group of people, I don't know what percentage they are of people that they don't, not that they don't think anything. Like if I ask you to think of a tree, can you visualize a tree?
No, I have aphantasia,
Oh, that's the thing where
but
you,
I have the inner monologue.
okay, so you have the inner monologue, but you don't have, like, if I ask you to picture a stick of butter, like you're not like visualizing what a stick of butter
I
looks
can,
like.
so it's weird. Like I can't, like if I close my eyes, it's just black, but it's almost like I can like draw it with my eyes, like in front of me. Like I can get like the general outline.
Okay. Well, you're an
Like
artist,
I
so
can
that
draw like
might
a
make
square
sense.
and then like add connecting lines like a butter dish. And it's not necessarily always the same color, but it's kind of just like a small doodle like in front of like right here.
Yeah.
I do have photographic memory though, and eidetic memory, which is really convenient for studying. When I was in like before college, I never studied like ever.
Yeah.
I never needed to study. I was
Is
just
it like
genuinely good
full,
at school.
like you read something once and then you don't need to read it again?
Right. And then when I got to college, I was like, I don't know how to study. Like, this is really stressful. Like, I need to study. There's so much information. And it's been like a really big like adjustment period to be able to, function that way. Like, I've had to learn how to like take notes properly. Learned how to like make flashcards that make sense to my brain. I've have
Oh,
like
so
a specific color coding system for like important points, like, and like a lot of that I had to like make interesting, like with the colors and like the system for the dopamine effect. um Thanks, Jen. But it's still like really really intimidating to study.
so my friend, so you need to see it written down, and then when you read it, then you'll remember it.
Kind of, yeah. I primarily how I study is writing everything down, and then I just keep my notebooks close to me.
My
If I read something on a screen, I can mostly retain it, but it's not
oh
what.
oh
You see
that
my
it's
face?
different than reading it on paper versus reading it on a screen. I didn't
Kind
know
of.
that.
It's the same. It's kind of like the same way. Like when I was younger, I used to work. You should look into that. I have vodka memory. We're not the same. It's hilarious. What was I saying? It's when I was younger, I used to like volunteer at a library, which is where I met like one of my other best friends that I've known for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And I used to take home like 15 books at a time and read them all within like 3 days. And I used to just burn through books. And most of it was probably like a form of like coping mechanisms and disassociation to not be like in my space, you know?
Yeah.
But I also like now I primarily listen to audiobooks. I have a really hard time like physically reading something and retaining it, which is really annoying, which is why I get most of my books for school like online instead of like physical copies, which on the flip side kind of sucks because like if I'm taking a test, I need to refer back to something, I better hope I wrote it down.
So do you think that it was a like it's a consequence of like any of the meds that you're on that kind of took away the eidetic memory?
Kind of. It also just really like depends. Like now that I'm back on that, like now that I'm on Adderall, like I've noticed that like I'm a lot better at like comprehending things.
Yeah.
But I think that it was just me like rapid fire trying to find a way to escape when I was like actually like reading physical books. I think that that's what it was more so than like an ADHD symptom of not being able to brain, not being able to like think or whatever. However, like audiobooks like really help me because I don't have to just sit somewhere. Like I can listen and I can clean and I take in information better when I'm listening, physically doing it, or like doing something else while I listen to it.
Yeah.
Um, I spend the majority of my time like cleaning while listening to audiobooks because I'm able to like fidget and work with my hands, but I'm taking in most of it. If I just sit there or I have to play like a mindless game on my phone, it's really weird.
I understand that. So I can't like I don't know, watching series is hard because I have to sit there for a long time and it's like I do other stuff.
I
Um,
usually crochet while I or knit or do some kind of craft thing while I'm watching a series, unless I'm just dead tired and like zombifying my brain into my phone.
I feel you.
But I
Um,
definitely retain like a lot more references and stuff to different series if I'm like working with my hands.
oh, that's interesting. I'm we'll pick this up probably again next time because we're at about the 2 hour mark right now.
Oh,
Um,
I'm locked in an office. I don't think they're gonna bug me. So if you want to keep going, it's fine.
okay. No, I mean I do want to talk off camera for a bit and then I'm very hungry.
And me
So
too.
I'm
I haven't eaten anything.
all right. So anything else you want to go over right now before we end it?
Um, Not really. I want to thank the audience participation. It was fun interacting with you guys, and thank you so much, Randy. I always love our chit chats,
Of
and thank
course.
you for like letting me like tell my story a little bit because it is very like helpful for me to like process through things just by talking about it. For those of you who are getting out of organized religions and different hectic scenarios and traumatic experiences, like I really wish you guys the best, and I hope that you find comfort in whatever helps you and that you have a very good support system because it is extremely necessary to getting back to functioning how you want to. um, as for those who think they might have ADHD, do your best to find a psychiatrist or whatnot who actually listens to you and like go for a couple sessions and like feel them out before you divulge the fact that like you're there for testing. and make sure that it's covered because it's expensive as fuck. Otherwise, I don't really know. I love you, bud.
I love you too. All right, so hang on. You stay on screen. I'll just end the broadcast and we'll go from there. Everyone, thank you. Appreciate the super chats, Raythax. You're the best. I love you all. Fast dismissed. Bye, guys. Meow, meow.
Also,
yes,
I am totally welcome to like coming. Like, I'm totally up for like coming back and like chatting with y'all. This has been really fun.
yeah, good times. All right, bye, guys. Meow, meow, meow.